Tonight's big story breakdown is the crypto craze, a bill aiming to create the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act in Oklahoma, making its way through the state legislature. This would allow the state treasurer to invest state funds into Bitcoin.
Fox 25's Capitol reporter Paige Taylor spoke with the author of the bill and the state treasurer about the potential benefits and risks to taxpayers.
Going to allow our state to invest up to 5% of our general revenue funds and our pensions in Bitcoin or other digital assets.
That's the goal of House Bill 1203, authored by State Representative Cody Maynard.
Bitcoin is one of the best performing assets of the last decade. It's had 49% annual returns. And I think where we're at right now is, the way of the future is going to be digital assets, and our state does not need to be ignoring that.
If the bill is signed into law, Oklahoma State Treasurer Todd Russ could invest funds from the State General Fund, Revenue Stabilization Fund, and Constitutional Reserve Fund in Bitcoin and digital assets with a market cap over $500 billion. He says there are different factors about this that could be seen as positives or negatives, and people who support it feel like it's a great hedge against inflation.
It's done phenomenal. It's caught on, been a very popular product. Started calling it an investment, but there's questions about whether it's a currency or an investment.
Some states have been unsuccessful in passing similar measures due to lawmakers feeling it is too great of a risk with taxpayer dollars. Russ says his first concern is the safety and soundness of taxpayer dollars.
For me, if the state of Oklahoma decides to do this and the legislature puts it in statute, I've got to follow the law, and I'd be happy to. I don't care at all to. But I'd like to start out small, minimize the risk, and see how it does.
Paige Taylor, Fox 25 News.
While Oklahoma lawmakers overwhelmingly approved that Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act today, some had their own doubts about the legislation. A majority of Oklahoma House Democrats voted no.
Fox 25's Tom Ferguson there as the proposal passed through the House and joins us live from the Capitol now. Tom?
Adam and Wendy, one of the key highlights from this bill is putting guardrails around the inclusion of cryptocurrency in state retirement funds. On Monday, the majority Republican Oklahoma House approved House Bill 1203.
77 aye, 15 nay.
Some change in order those elected council and vote passed. Mr. Floor Leader.
The votes against the bill largely came from Democrats. The measure would allow investments in digital assets such as cryptocurrency with a market capitalization rate of over $500 billion.
Currently, the only asset that meets that requirement is Bitcoin.
Originally, the funds and accounts included in the bill could be up to 10% crypto. But the bill's author, Cody Maynard, dropped that percentage.
This is dropped to 5%. Is there any rebalancing on the 5%?
Maynard said the measure has no rebalancing provision, but instead outlines that at the time of the investment, digital assets cannot exceed more than 5% of the fund.
Can someone opt out of crypto in their state retirement plan if they're not comfortable investing in crypto?
No pensioner gets to pick what their plan is invested in. So they cannot opt out of it any more than they can opt out of any other item that our pension funds have chosen to invest in.
Maynard said currently, state law does not limit how much officials can invest in crypto for these funds. And according to the Durant Republican, there are also no guardrails in state law preventing officials from investing in less stable cryptocurrencies.
This bill also puts some parameters out there that will ensure that we do not invest more than 5% and that we do not invest in assets that are highly volatile.
On the Senate, live at the Capitol, Tom Ferguson, Fox 25 News.
Thank you, Tom. A similar bill making its way through the Texas legislature would allow the Texas Comptroller's Office to maintain a reserve of Bitcoin, so to be made up of funds allocated by the legislature as well as gifts given to the Texas government. According to the bill's author, the measure would also require the currency invested in with state funds to have a market capitalization of at least $500 billion over a 12-month period, essentially the value of those mined coins. The legislation will also require the creation of a 5-person advisory committee. They'd offer advice on managing the reserve. The bill is advanced out of the Senate, still needs House approval before it can go to the governor's desk.
One other bill dealing with Bitcoin was filed this session. Under Senate Bill 325, firms dealing with digital assets would not be required to obtain a state money transmitter's license, as long as they do not accept U.S. currency payments or exchange digital assets for U.S. currency. The measure would also allow employees, businesses, and corporations to negotiate for payment in Bitcoin and would direct the state treasurer to put out a request for proposal for a firm dealing with digital assets to pay state employees and vendors with Bitcoin. However, important to note, this bill did not make it out of committee. Oklahoma is already investing in the growth of Bitcoin. Muskogee, home to a Bitcoin mining facility. Polaris Technology started construction on the 42-acre site 2 years ago, investing more than $100 million and creating dozens of jobs. Now, the facility has dozens of containers on the property. Each one holds 180 computers mining data around the clock. Those computers are cooled by fans or water, which we're told creates a lot of the noise people living nearby reported hearing.
We're going to build some noise cancellation fence or wall to isolate us from them.
A Muskogee resident recently filed a complaint about the Bitcoin mining facility with the state's Department of Environmental Quality. During an investigation earlier this month, ODEQ found 10 violations. According to the inspection, the facility did not have measures to contain or stop sediment from leaving the site. It also noted a vast majority of the area did not have the proper stabilization measures in place. There was also no signage posted with the permit, authorization number, contact information, or project description. The facility was given until this Wednesday to make the necessary changes.
With Bitcoin growing in popularity, there's some risks that come with it. The Attorney General's office put out a warning last week about a rise in scams involving Bitcoin ATMs. Bitcoin ATMs are virtual currency kiosks and can be found in some grocery stores and gas stations, and they look just like a traditional ATM, but they allow you to purchase and send virtual currencies like Bitcoin. Now, according to AG Gettner Drummond, scammers using a variety of tactics to convince people to withdraw money from their bank account and deposit it into one of these virtual currency kiosks. The AG's office says once the virtual currency is sent to the scammer's crypto wallet, the transaction typically cannot be reversed. Now, one of the common Bitcoin scams law enforcement is seeing is impersonation schemes. We're told these con artists claim to represent the IRS or the FBI or some other official agency and scare people into making virtual currency payments.
Fatima Moen with our sister station in Harrisburg spoke with one woman who says she was just seconds away from becoming one of their victims.
I don't normally answer spam callers because you can easily see a spam number. Sometimes it shows up that it's a spam. But this was a 717 area code because it was local. The whole thing sounded so bizarre. The number one red flag I got when he called me, he mentioned me by my maiden name. And I said, that's not been my maiden name for 33 years. And I was like, well, how the heck did a jury duty get my maiden name after all these years?
Katie was told she owed $2,500 for missing jury duty, and a man claiming to be a sergeant for the Lebanon Police Department told her she had to pay a bill immediately or else she would be liable for a federal crime.
Because of the fear, I'm like, oh my gosh. And he kept saying, he said, this was a federal offense. He said, we can have the federal agents come out and get you, and you probably will be in jail for about 72 hours. And I'm like, what?
Katie feels upset for being gullible, and although someone stepped in before she deposited her cash into a Bitcoin machine here in downtown Lebanon, she hopes others will be more vigilant.
I can't tell you how fearful I was that I got that close. And she said, the woman there said right away, she said, I'm calling the Lebanon police. Now that I'm on this side of it, I'm like, I could have put him on mute and Googled stuff.
We just saw two undocumented people in Lebanon plead guilty in a similar scam where they directed their victims to a Bitcoin machine in Harrisburg.
I tell you, the fear was unbelievable. I have never experienced that much fear. Everyone needs to know.
And that was Fatima Moen reporting. The FTC says no government agency would demand you send cryptocurrency. If you receive a call demanding you do so, the FTC recommends hanging up and blocking the number. And that was your Big Story Breakdown tonight. You can learn more about the investments the state is making in Bitcoin and find all of our previous Big Story Breakdowns on our YouTube channel. Just scan the QR code on your screen or search OKC Fox.